Well, hello Internet, and welcome to part 3 of my Visual Basic tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to cover if, else, select cases, ternary operators for each, do until, do while, raise, and much more. And of course, all of the code and a transcript of this video is available in the description underneath the video, and I have a lot to do, so let's get into it. Okay, so here I am in Visual Studio again, and I'm going to create another Windows Forms application, and I'm going to call it vbtut3 because this is the third part of the tutorial, and that's a classy name, and I'm going to hit on OK, and there it's going to create my form. Now, what I'm going to do is come in here, and I'm going to resize this a little bit, and then I'm going to come down here and click on the toolbox and open that up, and I'm going to find myself a text view, or a text box that is, and there it is, and I'm going to drag it up here and I'm going to drop it right there just like I did previously. I'm going to leave the name text box 1, which is right there, just because that seems to work okay, and I want this to be a multi-line box again, so what I'm going to have to do is come in here and change multi-line to true, so just click in here and right there. I'm then going to find my scroll bars and change those to vertical, just like I did before. And then what else do I want to do? Word wrap. I want to make sure that word wrap is set to true as well. And there's word wrap, and it is set to true. All right, so that's all good. And I'm going to come over here and grab it and resize it on the screen here. That looks perfectly fine. Also, I want to come in here and increase the size of my font because I want you to be able to see it here on your screen. So I'm going to change this to something like 18 and click on OK. Then I'm going to come in and grab a button, drag it and drop it right about there. That works. And come over here and change the name of this to button update. And let's also change the font on that so you can see it so that looks a little bit nicer, and font in 18 and click on OK, and also come over here and change the text inside of it from button 1, well, not to text, that would be silly, to update. Okay, and hit enter, and there we go. And then I'll resize the button so that it is really big on the screen. Now I'm going to jump in and start writing the code by double clicking right here. And here I am. Okay, so what we're going to do first off is talk about conditionals. Those are if, ElseIf, and else, and select case, and the ternary operator. But first I want you to be able to read this, so I'm going to click on Tools and Options. Sorry about the double mouse or the double cursors. That is something that Camtasia is having an issue with. I can't get rid of it, and if anybody knows a better screen capture software, I will buy it immediately, but I can't find anything better. So I'm going to double click on this, and I'm going to change this to 38 and click on OK. And now everything is really, really big. So, all right, so into conditionals. What I'm going to do first is I want to be able to update the text in my text box. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to create something called text output. You can name it anything, of course, as string is equal to, and just have it be an empty string. And now the if statement's basically just going to be used to perform different actions depending upon different conditions, which you probably are aware of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an integer here, and it's going to be called integer age, and I'm going to give it a value of 7. And you're going to be able to compare values using just the equal sign like this. This is going to be not equal, this is going to be greater than, less than, greater than, or equal to, or less than or equal to. That's how you're going to be able to compare values in Visual Basic. First, I want to show you a single line if statement, which is different than the ternary operator, as you're going to see here in a moment. And to create it, you go if, and I'm going to say int age is less than 18, then I'm going to go text output, and I'm going to add on to that string, which I'm going to be updating here in the text box in a little bit, and I'm going to say you can't vote, and then I'll go and environment and new line, and there that is. And I might as well come down here and update my text box as well. And then let's move this down. And to update the text box, I'm going to go and reference its name, which is text box 1, and then text is going to be equal to text output, and there that is. All right, so that's going to update that for me. Now, if you would like additional statements to be able to trigger with this single line if conditional, all you're going to do is put a colon inside of there and keep on making them. So I'm going to put in here text output and equal to you can vote in, and I'll say and I'll put 18 inside of there, int age. I know this isn't going to make sense if the person can vote, but whatever. I'm just doing this just to be able to show you an example. And I'll change this to years. And then I'm going to throw in the environment new line again. So environment and new line. And there that is. Okay, so that's how you make a single line if conditional. And if we run it, just click on start up here. You're going to see how that goes. And there it is. Click on update. You can't vote. And then it says you can vote in 11 years. Okay, so there's a single line if statement. Now I'm going to show you if, else if, and else. So to do this, what we're going to do is I'm going to say if, and see Visual Studio, I typed in lowercase if, and it went and corrected that for me. Visual Studio, the new version, is awesome. Okay, so we're going to go int, whoops, get rid of that. Int age is less than 5. What I'm going to do here is determine what class a student should go into based off their age. So I'm going to say if their age is less than 5, then I want to go to the text output and equal to, and I'm going to say something like too young for school. Now I'm going to put in another conditional. So I'm going to say else if int age is equal to, so you just do a single equal unlike other languages, and we'll say then, and here I'm going to put the text output again. Let's go and copy that. Well, actually, let's come in and do environment and a new line. There that is. Now we can copy this guy right here and paste it in right there. All right, so in the situation in which they are the age of 5, I'm going to tell them to go to kindergarten. So go to kindergarten. I don't know if everybody goes to kindergarten, but that's what I'm going to use here. And then I'm going to say else if int age. And here what I'm going to be able to do is use logical operators. Now the logical operators are going to be or as well as and. And what they allow you to do is to come back with a positive, which is going to allow the next line of the program to execute if the situation, if you use an and, if both are true, and if you use an or, if one or another is true. And in this situation, I am going to say int age is greater than 5, and int age is less than, and I could say 18 or 19 or whatever. I'm just going to leave it be 18. Then I'm going to go and create a new integer. I'll call this integer grade is equal to int age minus 5, and then I will come in here and say what grade they should go to. So I'm going to say go to grade, put a space inside of there, come outside of here, put an and I'm going to go int grade, and then the new line's going to trigger. So that's going to calculate that. And now if I want a default, I'm going to say else. And then for this guy, I'm going to just say for everybody else, go to college. Go to college. And there we go. All right, so that is how if, else, if, and else work inside of Visual Basic. And then, of course, the end if comes down here to close off the if statement. And if we run that guy, and remember the age is 7, click on update, and it's going to say, you can't vote, but there, right here, it's going to say go to grade 2. All right, so there that is. Another thing that's important to know whenever you're working with conditionals is how to compare strings. And in many cases, if you're comparing strings, you're going to want to ignore the case of the letters. So I'll create a new string here, and I'll call it Derek. And I'm going to, in this situation, go if. And if you want to compare strings, you should use string compare. And then in this situation, what I'll be able to do is just put in all uppercase letters and compare it to the string name that I just created here, and say that if these come back as true, I want to put true there. And in this situation, what's going to happen is if the strings do indeed match, what it's going to do is return a 0 in this situation. So I'm going to say that this is going to come back as true if the comparison gives me a value of 0. And if it's false, it's going to come back with another different value. So here, I can just go text input again, and I can say something like, these strings are equal. and then have the new line on there. And let's go and do another one here so you can see multiple different pieces of output at the same time. I'm going to talk about the select case comparison operator. And basically, you're going to use this anytime it makes your code more readable. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say select case integer age, and what you're going to be able to do here is type in single digits or multiple digits. So we're going to say, okay, so what you're going to be able to do here is we're going to be trying to find the value of int age here. So we're going to say if the value of int age is, and you could put in a single value or you could put in multiple values, and I'm going to show you another shorthand way to do this. So if the value of int age is 1, 2, 3, or 4, I'm going to come in here to my text output and say too young for school. Another thing we're going to be able to do is, like I said, put in a single digits or a single value, and in this situation we'll say go to kindergarten, and there that is. And also here is the shorthand way to cover a range of values. We could say case 6 to 18, and in that situation I'll just go create a integer again, so int grade is equal to int age minus 5, and then throw in my text output. And just like I did before, I'm going to say go to grade, and then I'm going to throw in the grade that we just calculated, so int grade. And then in the situation in which you just want a default, you're going to say case else. This is going to basically work as the default situation that does not match any of the above. I'm going to throw in a text output again, and here I'll say go to college. So you can see how to do basically exactly the same thing with just if and else if instead of case like we did right here. So we can save that, and what the heck, let's also cover the ternary operator, and then we can run this and see all of the code. Now the ternary operator is basically going to assign one value if the condition is true, and it's going to assign another value if it isn't true. So here I'm going to say go create a boolean, and I'll say can vote as boolean, and here we'll go equal to if, and here is the conditional, int age is greater than or equal to 18, and in that situation, if that is true, it's going to assign the value of true to this variable right here. Otherwise, it's going to assign the value of false to that variable right there. And then finally, let's come down here and put some information. So we'll just say, can you vote? And we know the answer because the age is 7, and I'll say and boolean can vote. And now we can run all three of those and see what happens. So update, and there you can see right there, those strings are equal, and you saw that based off of using the string compare function. Go to grade 2 was calculated from the case statement because the age was 7, and can vote comes back as false. All right, so there's a rundown of all the different conditionals available to you in Visual Basic, and now I'm going to take a look at looping. Okay, so a for loop is going to allow you to execute code within a set number of times. So that's what for loops are. So we're going to say in this situation, create an integer num, and we're going to say that we want to count 10 times. So in this situation, all we're going to do is print out some text input, which is going to be all of those different values. So we'll just go int num. And if we run that, you're going to see that it's going to count from 1 to 10. Whoops, what did I do? I'm a silly man. Come in here, get rid of that, and go int num, and now run it, and you'll see what happens. Okay, so there it goes, and updates, and there you can see it went and printed out 1 through 10. All right, so we can do, of course, much better things with our for loops. Let's say, for example, we would want to, automatically what it does is it increments the value here by 1 each time through the loop. So let's say that we want to instead increase the value to 10. So here we'll say for int num is equal to 0, and we're going to go to 50, and we want to change the step from 1 to 10. That's how we do that. And here we will throw in the value once again, so int num. And then another thing we can do is, let's say that as you are looping, you would like a condition inside of here in which you will leave the conditional. So let's say we want to say if int num is equal to 40. In that situation, I want to prematurely jump out of the loop. I can then say then and exit 4. All right. And then that's normally break in other programming languages. And if we run that indeed, you're going to see updates. And here we will indeed print out 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, and not 50, even though we originally decided we wanted to print out 50. Another guy we have available to us is the for each. So let's get rid of this, and we're going to say for each. And what it's going to allow me to do is to cycle through arrays, for example. So let's go and let's create an array first. And I'm going to get more into arrays here in a second. So I'm going to say that I want to create an employees array, and they are going to be strings. And I want to go and assign values to them as I create the array. So I'm going to say that I have an employee named Paul, another one named Sally, and another one that is named Jack. So there you go, I created an array, and now I'm going to use the for each to cycle through those arrays. And so I'm going to say for each, and employee is going to be the temporary holding cell for each one of these as they're being pulled out of the array. So I'm going to say for each employee as they are strings, I have to say that, in employees. And I'm going to reference the employees array. And here we will just print out the employees' names. Let's get rid of this and say employee like that, and we run it. And you're going to see that we are able to come in and print out all the employees' names. Now let's come in here and do a little guessing game so that I can demonstrate how do until loops work for us. So I'm going to create a number guessed, and I'll just let it assign integer to this by default. And I'm sure you have been wondering how to generate random values. Well, now you'll know. So what we're going to do to generate a random value is you're going to have to define an upper bound. In this situation, I'm going to have that be 10, and you're going to have to define a lower bound. And in that situation, I'll have that be 1. And then to generate the random value, we go C int, and that's to cast this float into an integer. And I'll say math floor. And then inside of it, you put upper bound, the maximum value you want, minus lower bound. And then you're going to add 1 to that. And then you're going to multiply that guy times random. And then that'll close off like that. And then we'll go plus lower bound. So that's how we generate random values inside of Visual Basic. And now that I did that, I'm going to go over the do until loop. And in comparison, you also have a do while loop that is going to execute as long as a condition is true. So do until is going to execute until something's true. Do while is going to execute as long as something's true. But we're going to use do until, and for homework, you can try out the do while loop. So I'm going to say number guessed is equal to random value. I'm going to say I want to continue looping until the number that the program is going to guess is equal to the random value that we generated. Then inside of here, we'll go text output, and I'm going to say something like computer guessed, and I'll throw in the computer guess here. So we'll go and number guessed. And then just to make this very simple, I'm just going to increase the value of number guessed. So I'm going to say number guessed and increase the value by 1. Also, it's good to know that you can prematurely exit a do loop. So let's say something like number guessed is equal to 10, then exit do. Okay, so that's how you get out of there. And then after the loop part right here, we're going to know that the user guessed the value, and we're going to say and equal to, and then outside of the loop, which ends with the word loop right here, I'm going to go text output, and we know if we got down here that they guessed the value, so we're going to say the computer guessed it, and just throw in that new line. And if we run this guy, you're going to see the number guessed 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it guessed 7, and then it jumped out of the loop, and it says the computer guessed it. Okay, so that's how do until, and I'm sure you can understand how do while loops work as well, and looping in general inside of Visual Basic. So now I'm going to jump over and talk about arrays. Now the very first thing I'm going to do here, and arrays are just going to be a way for you to store multiple values and assign them to one variable. So if we want to define a fixed size array, that means an array that once you set the value, it can't be changed. I'm going to show you a way to change it though. But by default, it's going to be fixed in size. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go customer and put in Bob, Sally, and just to mix everything up here a little bit, I'll throw Molly? No, I meant to put Manny inside of there. So there's Manny. All right, so where we go. And now what I'm going to do with these guys is assign a value to the third element. This is going to be the 0 index, 1 index, 2 index. So if you want to assign something to the third element, what we're going to do is go customer, and let's change this to customers. So customers. And if I want to assign something to the third value, I have to put a 2 inside of there. And let's say that I want to get rid of Manny and put Paul inside of there. Can do so just like that. I can then get the value inside of an array. So let's come in here and we'll say something like number 1 customer. And then to get the value out of it, I can go customers and 0. And that's going to give me the first customer that I have inside of there. We're also going to be able to come in and sort the array based off of the order alphabetically. We could also come in and reverse the array just by throwing customers inside of there as well. Like I said previously, we're going to be able to change the size of the array and preserve the values that are in there by going redimension and then preserve. If you wouldn't put preserve inside of there, it would automatically go and delete all the values and you'd have an empty array. So we're going to change the size to 5 and preserve the values that are already inside of there. And of course, you're also going to be able to cycle through your array using for each. I'm going to say customer as string in customers. Throw in my text output to output to the screen. And here, just to keep this very simple, I'm just going to print out each customer's name like that. And we can run this to see how that's going to work for us. And update, and you can see it printed out number 1 customer is Bob. And remember, we reversed the order of the array, and here it printed out all those guys. And now to finish off covering arrays, I'd like to talk about multi-dimensional arrays. Basically, a multi-dimensional array is a matrix. It's going to be values that go both horizontal as well as vertical. And to define one, you just come in here and define the size you want. You define what is going to go inside of there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to populate this guy. So I'm going to use a for I is equal to, and I'll go 0 to 3. And then inside of here, we're also going to be able to do what they call nesting of a for loop. So this is for loop nesting. So I'm going to say j is equal to, and here I will go 1, 2, 3. Let's change this to 1 as well. So there's that. And then you're going to be able to visualize exactly what this matrix or multi-dimensional array looks like. So very first thing I'm going to do is I'll go matrix and I and j. And I'm going to say that they are going to have the values of I and j like this. Then after that, I am then going to output this information. So I'm going to basically do exactly the same exact thing. So why don't we just copy this and let's paste it. There that is right there. And here what we're going to do is output that information. So we'll go and whoops, forgot about this. And there we go. And here what I'm going to do is to output that information, I will go and refer to the matrix and I will say I, j, to get the value out of it. And then after the next down here, that's where I'm going to put my environment new line. So let's go and get rid of this all together and come down here and go text output and is equal to, and then like that. And I'll throw in the new line and you'll be able to see the structure of this guy. And then of course we can update our text box. So let's save that and let's run it and update. And there you can see we were able to print out all of those different values inside of our matrix like that. And maybe we should throw in a space so it's a little bit easier to read. So I'll jump up here and go and like that and run it and update. And there you can see exactly how all of those guys lay out. All right, so there you go, guys. That is a rundown of conditionals as well as looping and arrays with Visual Basic. Check out the code in the description as well as a transcript. And like always, please leave your questions and comments below. Otherwise, till next time.